For many riders, shorter days means less time to ride, and the only way to get around that is to start heading out by night. Days are getting shorter, 7 o'clock it's dark, so by the time you've been home from work, if you're not prepared to strap on some lights, you're not going to get a ride midweek. Whereas with your daytime ride, you can afford to rock up at the car park, faff around, play around with your bike and get it all set up. Come your night rides, the place to do your setup and your pre-ride safety check and run through your bike is somewhere warm and comfortable where there's a good source of light. Lights have come on a long way just in the last few years. The power that they pump out now and the burn times have increased. Still a few things that are the same is the consideration between where you mount them. If you're lucky, you can have one in your lid and one on your bars and cover all your bases. We're going to look at the various virtues of where, if you only had one light, where to place it. But in the meantime, I'm setting my lights up in the workshop where I can see what I'm doing. There's a few fiddly little bolts on some of them if you haven't mounting them for the first time, and dropping nuts in car parks just takes a lot of time to find them. So here, all ready to go. The only thing I might adjust as I get out there is the angle of the beam, and we're going to look again when we get out on the trail at the different aspects of where to point your light. Regardless of whether you've got real high-end lights that are going to shed loads of beam or a slightly weaker light with a slightly lesser burn time, budget plays a big part in that. You've got to make sure they're charged. Quite often it's a spur-of-the-moment decision to get out there on the trails, so keeping your lights charged on it if they're done night day before, stick them on charge when you go to work so that they're all ready to rock when you get home. Nothing worse than getting ready for a big ride, getting yourself all G'd up, switching that light on and seeing the little red light at the back beeping away saying you've only got 5 minutes of burn time left. So plan ahead. Other setup considerations: if it's the first time out and you're going to be riding perhaps with a little more anxiety, a little bit tenser than you normally would, think about softening off your suspension and slowing down your rebound speeds. If you're hitting things slightly unexpected because you haven't seen them in the fading with the lesser light available, and your suspension's rock solid or the rebound's really fast, you're going to start to get bounced around. So certainly if you're new to the idea of riding at night and you are riding in a slightly higher state of anxiety than usual, just softening things off will help on the suspension, will help counter the tension in your own body. Give it a couple of rides, that tension's all going to evaporate and turn to joy. You're going to be riding fluid so you can start getting back to your usual setup. But it's not just looking forward we need to think about, it's being seen. You don't need to go to town on a rear light, and a lot of the time your ride might be solely on the trails. But there's obviously quite regularly going to be little bits of road that you connect with. So what you really need to do is get yourself one of these. Nice cheap little LED, nice and bright, and straps onto the post, hang it from your back of your helmet, hang it on your back of your backpack, enough to be seen if you are hitting the road. Obviously if you know you've got a lot more road mileage going on, perhaps something more substantial. Although I've got my main light and my headlamp ready to go, what I'm also going to carry is the other side of this one, which is the front light, little tiny LED. It's not going to be good enough to ride trails at any speed, but it could get me home if all else fails. If there's a failure with my main light and my headlight, pretty rare, or if I'm just running one and I run overtime, a little light can do the trick. Most modern phones have a flash facility on them, which you can set up as a constant running light. I've even used that to get home by before. But having a second source or backup source of light is often a good idea. It doesn't need to be anything expensive, doesn't need to be anything big. It could be that you can only push your bike by the light of it, but it's enough to get you home. Pretty much standard kit that you'd ride with the day is the same as night. You're not going to ditch stuff just because it's night time. You're not going to necessarily not have mechanicals out there, but perhaps a really important consideration is making sure your backpack's pretty well organised. I'm using a smaller bum bag, fanny pack, whatever you want to call it, but knowing where everything is when I'm out on the trail is going to save me a lot of hassle. Searching through various pockets, various zips, trying to find the bit of kit that I know to be in there, it can be a real pain. So I'm making sure everything's nice and organised. I've got the tyre levers and puncture repair stuff in that side, spare tube in there, and nice and easy to locate is my multi-tool and my hand pump, so I know where everything is, where it should be. Many of you probably don't ride with a first aid kit. I always keep one handy. You never know, it's not necessarily for you, it's for the other riders in your group, but always a good idea. But when you're riding at night, if nothing else, an emergency blanket can come in handy. Even close to home on your favourite trails, problems at night are magnified. Things start off bad in the day, that would be bad in the day, at night time are made much worse. So Little emergency blanket could be the difference between a problem solved or a problem made much worse. So, backpack organised, bike ready to go. I'm going to stick everything in the truck, strap everything on, and I'm going to go straight to the trail. No faffing in the car park, no searching around, wasting burn time looking for stuff, all ready to go.